Hello, hello, hello. My baby dog and I are making a video together. Yes, it is a beautiful day and the rhododendron flowers are coming out in this color. And I don't know if it shows from here. Maybe. I'm gonna have to take this computer outside. I'm gonna go outside later, make another video outside and show the rhododendron blooming. So part of the hedge, the real pink ones, like this pillow, like this couch cover, like this baby blanket, they're always the first ones, the real bright pink. They're the first ones to come out, and they look like an old lady's swimming cap. You know, old ladies in Germany, they use, I don't know if they still do this today, but the new generation old ladies, if they do the same, but the old generation old ladies, they like the generation before my mother, even my grandmother's generation. when they went swimming somewhere in a public swimming pool, they had this real cumbersome big swimsuit on, like a corset sort of. And then they had a rubber bathing cap, like a hood, a rubber hood that went all the way over there. They did not want any water exposure to their hair. For heaven's sake, you know, the hair may not get wet, must not get wet, you know. So they had this rubber stretchy flower swim cappy on, and they looked just like the rhododendron. I think they must have modeled those after the rhododendron, because they I don't know, they had this some kind of rubber cast, like they make rubber animals with, and that had all these rubber flowers that would stick out just like the rhododendron, and they looked real pretty, but not really pretty. That only looks pretty in nature. So, and I could adorn myself with the rhododendron flowers all over my hair and make it look like a bathing cap, but it's still not a rubber bathing cap. So it's still nature, natural, and we should decorate ourselves with real flowers instead of rubber flowers. It's okay to put rubber flowers on you too, but you don't want the puppy dog to eat those. Yeah, it's not good to have these kind of things. He would eat if he saw one of those old ladies bathing cappies. You know what's gonna happen? He would grab it instantly, and he would sit in the middle of the living room with his feet on it, plucking it apart into small pieces. That's what would happen. And he may even eat some of this, swallow some of this. So not good to have any of these rubbery kind of things, toys, whatever. Children's toys, dog toys, I don't recommend these things. I only recommend to cut a piece of wood, like from a fallen branch. You know, you cut that into smaller pieces, like half a foot long, thick pieces. You know, you cut the side branches off that can be sharp. Okay, you file that down, make it smooth, the whole thing. You give that to your dog, and they will chew on it. The thing is with those, we have 2 of those in the house. They smell really good. They're also pretty fresh from the cedar trees. But he gets bored after a while, and then he wants to take something from us, like a shoe, and that's just how dogs are. They're not trying to be naughty or anything, A lot of people misunderstand that with dogs. So dogs they get bored just like little children get bored, and they want to get something novel and something more alluring, like the old lady's bathing cap. My grandmother, she had all kinds of those terrible things in her wardrobe, including hats and stuff. But I like it, I think it's good. She's from the 20s era, the 1920s. That was the era of, I guess, Bauhaus. I don't know when Bauhaus was from, or maybe Jugendstil, they called that era. So that's when the first expressionists were painting these old ladies with their flamboyant hats. So like Gauguin and Google, I don't know what these names are, I forgot the names. Renaudin, I don't know. I forgot the names now. But Edvard Munch belongs into that era. Franz Marc. So bunch of people that belong, Otto Dix, that belong into that era of expressionist artists. Also Francis Bacon from England, but that was a little bit later. So no, that was much later. I think that was in the 50s, 60s. Francis Bacon he literally painted meat. I think he went into slaughterhouses and he painted the pigs hung up upside down, cut open, with the ribs showing, like the rib cage was split open like that, and then he would paint something like this all the time. And sometimes he would morph them with people. And he didn't do this for some kind of purpose, to bring awareness or anything. He just did that. There was some kind of morbid fascination that he had with flesh and butchered carcasses and stuff like that. And he was also into bondage. He had a boyfriend. They were doing bondage with each other. And really bad. I mean, so bad that the boyfriend threw him out of the window. Francis Bacon was coming from a jockey family. He was really short and short and small, so he couldn't even defend himself against that boyfriend at all. But he was kind of fascinated with him, and it's all infinitely sad and neurotic and awful, terrible. And then the boyfriend became so jealous of him when Francis Bacon made it into the public eye with his artwork, when he became world famous. The boyfriend felt like left out, he felt cast into a shadow, and I mean, his entire abyss was coming up. And that's also why he was violent in all of this in the first place. So this takes me now to the subject I want to really talk about in this video. I was meditating earlier on the couch, and also in the garden. I was grounding myself, and I was thinking about a bunch of stuff, like relationship problems, relationship pain, and jealousy and all of these kind of things, I know what jealousy feels like. I am an expert on jealousy, okay, because that is the basso continuo pain throughout all my entire life. That follows me wherever I go. It wouldn't matter where I go, I will take my brain with me, I could be picked up by some Prince Charming who has billions of dollars. My brain goes too, okay, and it's not just in the brain, it's also, memory is also interestingly stored in the whole body, spinal cord and beyond. So memory, I don't know, it could be stored in muscle fiber, who knows, it could be stored in, it can be stored in all kinds of body cells and in the DNA. It could embed itself like a blueprint sort of into the DNA. And that's why they said that, they speculated now, that trauma that we experience in our lives can be carried on through our DNA even, We need to resolve that trauma so that we can free our DNA from all of this stuff. This is highly interesting. They have done research on nematodes, which are easier to observe. They reproduce much quicker, and the nervous system is much more schematic. I mean, not fully schematic, but it is much easier. It's more rudimentary, of course, in those. Also in the sea cucumber too. They like to study those too. I love those things. They're amazing. So that's like a half plant, half animal, half mammal, half nematode. Half plant, half nematode. Half plant, half animal. So there's all kinds of things in between, of course. So obviously plants are alive too. They're sentient to a certain degree, believe it or not. So, and they have a very rudimentary nervous system. Very rudimentary. You can, when you watch a plant grow, when they film plants, 24-hour plant growing, filming, they can speed up the film. You can watch exactly how the plant grows, particularly one like this here that grows on the balcony, that clings to things. So when they grow, they search just like a worm. They go back and forth like this. They're searching for something to dock onto. So there's a form of sentience in there already. But I want to come back to the main subject. I always get sidetracked with everything. I was thinking about jealousy, This is a severe trauma that can be given to us through our parents, and I believe even through inheriting it through the DNA. So jealousy is such a humongous problem in the human species. I mean, it's like, I don't know, it's one of the absolute worst trauma, pain embedded into our nervous system and cells. So they did studies with the nematodes where they would condition them, like they would link up food with light or something like this, and then the nematodes, although they like to avoid light, they started to go where there's light because they learned that was linked up with food. And in the next generations, when they took the light off and all of this, they took the light off long before they started to part themselves. I don't know, I think they are hermaphrodite. They split apart at some point, and then that's how they make another nematode, a worm. Different types of worms, of course. So long before they went into the anaphase splitting, they took the lights off, and to make sure that this doesn't affect the new generation. So they wanted to see what happens to the new generation worm, and they didn't have the lights on, and the next couple of generations of worms would all know the same thing. Okay, so they would go to the light looking for the food. So I believe that trauma, in the same sense, can embed itself into the DNA also of much more complex living beings. All of this is ultimately, when we look at all this entire picture and we see violent criminals, we can see this from the sky perspective. We can see the whole picture of it from the sky perspective, and we can see that these people must have inherited, literally inherited that pain, not just through the way the parents behave, the kind of values they emphasize, values, very relative here, I mean this, okay, so values that have nothing to do with value, they're subjective, I don't know how to call it, idiosyncrasy or personal fetish or whatever, or just group peer pressure adaptation and those kind of things. They think they're supposed to like something. They have cut themselves completely off. They have cut off their inner child and their own personal needs to the point of being a complete puppet to society, to the corporate agenda, to that what they have been told to like and accept, and so on. And this can probably be inherited as well. It is visceral. It goes into biology to the point where when you try to de-brainwash these people, you have to look even further, It's not just stuck in childhood. This goes much further even. This goes down several generations, many generations, maybe thousands of generations. So then it is so hardened and so grooved in, these kind of mechanisms. It takes someone to question all of this, not just psychologically, but fundamentally in such a way where they have to really dig into their own biology with this deep, and they have to acknowledge that they're almost like a surgical, biological brainwashing, deep brainwashing, like genetic brainwashing to that point, where it takes a lot of introspection. Although I see that with Paul, he wants to, for example, he wants to quit potato chips and all these junk type of things. He goes to the store, He said it 1,000,000,000 times. He cannot buy this anymore. I keep telling him salt is a killer. It really adds to the diabetes and kidney problems and all of this. He goes to the store. I'm not there. I'm in the van with my baby dog because we never leave him alone. Okay. He goes in the store alone. Dangerous situation. Okay. He sees Granny Goose potato chips, and the hand reaches out before his prefrontal cortex can even interfere and say, "Wait a second here, hold it, don't grab that bag." Okay. He grabs the bag anyway. Okay. And then later the voice, and then he goes, whatever, bullshit, I'm not going to listen to it. Or he goes into total amnesia, or like an anosognosia type of denial, where he makes up a lie that, "I thought you liked Granny Goose." So that's the only thing that he remembers, like from 4 or 5 years ago, when I said maybe 1 or 2 times that I like Granny Goose potato chips. They had them at the Dollar Tree store for $1, not anymore. So now they're like, I don't know, $2 or something. But Joe Biden, baby, he raises the prices, and you think you get more, right? You get more money, empty money from the government, and at the same time the prices go up in the same, like parallel. So, but it tricked you into thinking you get more money because you get more from the government. The prices are going up, so it's the same situation. It's just that now we're getting into inflation. It's very dangerous. Okay, it can tear down an entire economy. But people don't think this far. Okay, they're in a state of anosognosia, just like Paul in the store when he's grabbing Granny Goose. In the same way, people are voting for Joe Biden in a state of mental endarkenment from peer pressure and trying to be belonging to their peer group and so on. So it's just it is mental. Oh, he left. Oh, okay. I'm so sad. I wonder what's wrong. Okay. The contractor was here. Yes, they are talking about cutting off the deck. So he didn't stay that long. Okay, maybe I'll come back later. So, yeah, I wanted to talk. I sway off, and all of these things are connected to it. All of this is I'm not laughing about anyone, not making fun. It's a situational comedy. Okay, this is a universal comedy type of humor. It's not on cost of anyone. It's not against anyone. I laugh about myself in the same way. Okay. Once you are on that level where you can laugh about yourself, you have made light years of progress psychologically. I guarantee this to you. Jonathan Mese talked about this many times. He gave a long lecture one time in Germany at an art school, I think, and he said, only when you have gone through the valley of ridicule, you come out free, and you come out the real, true artist. Okay, when you are no longer imitating others or trying to fit in or trying to make your art be liked by anyone, and also when you're not trying to make art that is deliberately not liked. Francis Bacon was in that sense. when someone liked his artwork, he had to throw it away. Some kind of OCD thing. Okay, so no, we have to, if someone likes it, it's okay. If someone doesn't like it, it's also okay. That's, you have to come to that. I'm making a video. You have to come to, I'm not showing you. Baby dog went outside. I had the door open, so he must be outside. Okay, so it doesn't matter. I paint what I like, what I want to see, I want morphing of shapes. I want my arm to become really wide and long. Endlessly long. It really does not matter what my mother or my dad or anyone or my brother or the whole world says about this, and they say, but that's dorky, okay, but that's not anatomically correct, okay, but that looks weird, okay, check mark, okay, so, or they don't like it, okay, this looks like an airport, okay. So I don't know, whatever people say, yeah? It doesn't matter to me. It really doesn't matter. So that's when you are out the other end of that value of ridicule, you are free, you're bird free, and that is the state of sanity. I'm not saying I'm enlightened or totally sane. I have OCD, I have mental illness, but it's not on that. It's not. Paul yesterday used that term on the other side of the fence, because I was talking to him last night about these criminals that I saw just the other day when we were at the other house. I watched documentary films about criminals. And yes, and I'm trying to understand that. I'm trying to understand the criminal mind. Some people say you can never understand them. This is beyond understanding, and maybe it is. But I'm still trying to understand. It doesn't matter, an astrophysicist is always trying to probe deeper into the infinite cosmos, into black holes. So. That in that sense, I'm trying to probe deeper into the human brain, and I want to know more, not just the human brain, the human body, the human mind. The mind, obviously, according to David Bohm, and he was a theoretical physicist, famous scientist, and the discussions with Jiddu Krishnamurti, these discussions they had for over 50 years together, back and forth in between England and Ojai, California, and also they had a very important school over there. I think that school still exists in South India. They were always in a triangle, flying around the globe, flying from one place to another to just have another discussion. And I kind of like this because that spreads that energy around the world. And they said the mind is not just in the brain or in the body. It's in the brain and the body, but it's also outside. So, and scientific studies are coming a little bit closer to this now. So in the past, I was kind of skeptical of those people that were talking about the mind outside of the body, but I have come to understand now, from my own personal insights, that obviously the mind is not just bound to the brain and the body. Okay. The mind can venture out. You can go out of your own body. Not just during a near-death experience. You can have an OBE, out-of-body experience, while you are alive, while you are healthy, but you have to go into a very specific mental state. You have to go into a very specific meditation for that. And then you can see that you are not just your body and your brain, which is one unit, of course. You also have a mind. And what is the mind? Is that the soul? Okay, so I'll say yes, absolutely. Okay, so the mind is the soul. The psyche is the soul. That's a Greek word, psyche. It's a Greek word for soul, and that's the mind. So, and all these things go very, very deep, These things don't end anywhere, okay? It's just endless. And in the same sense, someone who commits violent crimes is in a horrific suffering state. Okay? This is a fact, okay? I'm not just saying this because some other people talked about this or some other people discussed this subject of suffering and unempowerment and so on. I really feel this from the bottom up, I can see it, I can feel it, I can sense this, okay? These people are in a horrific mental state, not just mental state, a mind state, the entire mind. The whole soul is on fire, the whole soul is burning and pain. They're alive, but they're already in bardo. This is something that I think the Jehovah's Witness talked about and other people talked about. Many cultures have talked about this, the bardo state, or the Buddhists call it the hungry ghost energy. The bardo is the hungry ghost energy. That is the inflamed and inflated ego state, where the ego is never ever even questioned or put in its place or reminded. You are just the ego. You are just trying to avoid pain from childhood. You're trying to avoid these old, ancient, maybe inherited, the inherited trauma of unempowerment. You're just trying to avoid it. And in this process, you are stepping on other people, like other people would step on dying people while getting out of a burning building, okay, in the same sense. You are trying to get out of a burning building mentally, psychologically, your mind, your soul, okay. And I'm saying you to the violent criminal. I'm not saying this to everybody, okay? Not everybody is in that state, of course. That is still the minority of people who are in that state, but it's a large amount of people, okay? I would say maybe 40%. That's almost 50%. 40%. It's just a rough estimation. Could be more. There's a whole scale, of course. And the scale, it doesn't even have an end. It's an endless scale, okay? It's not A to Z, right? It's not a finite scale. This is an infinite scale of better, or worse, okay? More unempowered, more empowered. Okay. STX has, I think, 20 levels or something. Just to put words onto it. This is a very broad scale, of course. But the ultimate scale like that of empowerment is endless in both directions, of course. Seems endless. And it is endless. It is How can it not be, right? So it is endless. And I said some very politically incorrect things last night when I was talking to Paul. And it is a risky business to talk about these things, to say these things publicly for me. Very risky business. I have said stuff like this in the chat room. Man, that triggered shit up in people, of course. I mean, the ego is there to guard, the ego of the psychopath wants people to petition for the psychopath. The ego of the psychopath wants the psychopath to be allowed to murder endlessly and endlessly and endlessly. Like Barack Obama said, you give your little brother another chance and 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 another chance, and it just goes on and on and on. Okay, where does that lead to? It leads to precisely to demented man Joe Biden and drug addict Kamala Harris in the White House, and it leads to people burning forests and thinking this is a revolution when they are burning their own life source off. Okay, so that's where it leads to. And where the other people are all quiet about it. Very quiet. Nobody wants to say anything because, they want to be liked. They want to be invited to the party. They want to be part of the group. Yes. So that's where it leads to. And then it gets worse. And from there, and worse and worse and worse. And nobody says anything. I guess nobody says anything until their own lives are affected by it. And even then, a lot of people still don't say anything. Even once their own lives, once the rioters are raiding their own homes, okay, they still don't say anything. Whoa, brother, that goes far, And then they wonder why they have been mistreated like this. They have been mistreated because they let these people mistreat them. That's why. Okay. The ego doesn't. The ego is scared. When the ego sees someone who is guarded and has the gun already on the cargo pants, okay, like that. Then the ego says, we're cool, it's all cool, you're cool, we're buddies, yeah, you're good. If he didn't have that, or whoever it is, have the gun like this, be guarded like this, that's also empowerment, being guarded, okay. If they weren't like this, if they were like, I give in to you, and yeah, I'm gonna help you, yes, no, they're gonna get killed. And that's what happened already. There were 2 women and who knows how many people. 2 women that helped the Black Lives Matter people. And so they invited one of those Black Lives Matter rioters to their home, and they served him, catered to him, hand and foot, and we're on your side, we're cooking for you, eating. So after they ate, he raped them and then he killed them. Yeah, that's what they got for it. Okay, so I'm pointing this out to you so you know this shit is real, it's happening, it's there. Shit is cooking, okay, in the world. Why? Because people give in to this. When they give in to egos, to other people's egos, then they will step on them and they will kill them and they will trash everything. They will cut their own life sources off. So very important to bring this, to lay this all out on the table. It's highly irritating. I have extreme hatred towards this situation, towards people like this. This is me being a living being. Okay? I'm not a god. But from the higher perspective, once I lean back again, it's always back and forth. I lean back. I can see the whole picture from above. I can see the white liberals, the peons, okay? I can see them for what they are. They're little piss-ons. That's what they are. That's a little flimsy little pushover step-ons, okay? That put their own social acceptance over the safety of the world. Okay, so that's what. But I think it goes further. They don't even know that they're causing problems. They think they're helping or something. They're so twisted in their heads. Yeah, and we're dealing with psychopaths. The psychopaths that are then doing harm, and there's no more legal system to stop them. Right? They're even incentivized with that. It's even sanctioned by society. So, and that leads us to, that would end in total trash dumpster society, like that film Elysium, where they show on Earth everything is trashed. Okay? But that was a euphemism, that film. It would be much worse than that film in reality. Much, much worse. You have no idea. You wouldn't want to be on this planet anymore. You could not handle it, no matter where you lived. Because it wouldn't be safe anymore, anywhere. Not in Bel Air either. Not even on your yacht, or not even if you have 100 militia yachts following you and protecting you. Not even then it will be safe. So I'm just laying this out to you now, so that we all see now very clearly where this situation is going to go to if we don't stop it. And that's why I say a bunch of very politically incorrect things, because I'm not afraid of what other people think of me, of course. I'm just a little bit worried for our safety. And yeah, everyone should be worried, It is it's scary, But, and Paul would never say these kind of things publicly, because we can't say it. But you know what? Silence brings on a total dictatorship. If you are silent with this, you are guilty of bringing on the very dictatorship that is rolling up. So there are very few people that are speaking out, that are for freedom of speech, okay, like Elon Musk. But here, Elon Musk also has to be very careful how he words himself. I would like to talk to him about these things. But I think that I don't know how many people would be in agreement with me, what I have to say about this. Probably very few people. Very, very few people would be in agreement with what I say. And I'm not coming from any kind of, I don't care what race anyone is. I really don't. I don't care what race anyone is when I'm dating a man. I don't care what race anyone is when I'm making friends with people. I don't care what race anyone is when I want to headbutt people. Okay? I don't care. I want to headbutt people. I personally would do it, but that wouldn't be good for me psychologically, because then that would backfire into, and I'm going to get to that in a moment, that very mechanism, very dangerous. Okay, so that's why humans cannot be executioners. I wrote, thank you, Blue God, 4444. Yeah. Again, the infinite cosmos is in total alignment with what I'm saying right now. Oh my goodness, this metaphysical. Thank you, Blue God. Yes, klar. I have a lot of fear. I have a lot of anxiety. I have OCD. I have terror of brain terror. All of this. But there's a reason why I have anxiety. I've been traumatized, and the world is traumatic by itself. Okay, I'm not a god. I'm not an AGI robot that is not afraid of pain. Okay, I'm a biological organism, afraid of pain, afraid of being hurt, afraid of being bullied, afraid of being tortured, and so on. So nobody that has a body with neurons and pain reception would want to put themselves at risk. But if we don't say anything, if we keep silent about this, yes, then what's going to happen is then the dictatorship of the psychopaths are going to take over. They're going to take over. So the psychopaths are going to take over in, whether it's a dictatorship of one person or an oligarchical dictatorship or a group dictatorship or whatever it is, the corporate agenda dictatorship. The psychopaths would take over. Okay, there's a kitty down there, beautiful kitten. I hope the baby dog doesn't see the cat. Oh my goodness. Sometimes he smells the cats all the way from here. That's why he can see out there into the dark. He can see with his nose, basically, I think. That's what it is. Beautiful kitten. So he would go berserk. So if we don't want the psychopathic dictatorship to roll up more and more and more, destroying the whole planet, trashing everything, destroying animals and humans, destroying people's homes and so on, torturing innocent beings. If we don't want it, if we don't want them to cut all of our trees, to burn our forests down, the forests that we depend on, we don't want that to happen. We have to say something. We have to speak out. We have no other choice. I have no other choice, okay, other than to speak out. No matter how risky that feels. What other people think, I don't give I don't want to say the F word. I don't give a crap about, really don't. But it's dangerous to say this, and I don't blame people when they're very, very careful how they word themselves, but we have to say something. We can be careful how we word ourselves, but we have to speak out against psychopathic dictatorship. We have to speak out against the corporate agenda. We have to speak out against psychopaths, psychopathic groups like Black Lives Matter and Antifa. Okay, those are psychopathic groups. Those are extreme hate groups that are causing extreme harm and danger to the world. That's not a revolution. They're not helping anyone. They just inflame people's egos even more, and they cause destruction. That's all it does. And they cause more division between people, between different groups, demographics, different whatever groups people identify themselves with. Many people identify themselves with others just because of their skin color, which in itself is very fascist and racist to do. It's very racist to say I'm just going to stick to those people because they are my skin color. Whatever skin color you are, you're sticking to the people that have your skin color. I mean, that's very racist to do, right? So that's division. That's causing more division. That's putting fuel into the fire of war and more division in the world. It's tragic. It's horrific. So all of this is important to talk about, but I still didn't get into what I wanted to actually talk about. Wanted to talk about psychopathic people, including psychopathic teenagers and children who will latch onto a group or religion or cult that is also psychopathic, and then try to be liked by them, and then doing horrible things to be liked by that group. Happened many times already. This is very mentally ill. This is very pathological, and it's very destructive for the world. Okay, these kind of things. I saw this girl interviewed who murdered a teenage girl who murdered a 9-year-old little girl, innocent little girl, who was in her neighborhood, living in her neighborhood. She murdered her at night in a forest with the kitchen knife from her grandparents. And then she washed the kitchen knife and put it back into the drawer where they would use it to cut food with. And then turned out during that interrogation, the grandmother was there in the room with them, that she started to admit that she had cut that little girl with the knife and killed her and had blood all over her. And the grandmother was so heartbroken over this. So heartbroken. She cried in absolute agony, like the grandmother, because she didn't want that. She didn't want that reality. But she said to them, whatever reality is there, whatever is the truth, I want to know it. So it's very courageous of the grandmother. Okay. Some other people, they'll go into denial, or they will walk away and pretend nothing is going on. At least she was willing to face this. Okay, so that's very brave of her. But so let's zoom in on the teenager. What's going on there in that mind? Okay, what's happening in that brain? What kind of unempowerment is happening in that mind? What kind of jealousy is going through that mind? Because that's all I can think of, as that's those are the only logical explanations that will make any sense. So jealousy of the little girl. The little girl looked absolutely innocent. They showed a photo of the little girl, like so innocent, so trusting and sweet, And then the psychopathic teenager who already had this look on her face of wanting to be liked and wanted, wanting to be popular, wanting to be accepted. The extreme ego that was visible in her face, the extreme form of where the ego completely takes over and disconnects this living being from any kind of empathy or feeling the other beings, the other animals and children. She had also wanted to kill her little sister, and then she let it out on the neighbor's daughter. So, and then there's a whole cult coming out of this thing, where there are devil worshipper type of people who are worshipping her now. They're not helping her with that at all. You're not helping someone by glorifying their horrific acts, because that just gives the ego even more incentive. That cuts them even further off from who they actually are and what's actually going on, the feelings that are actually happening underneath. Someone who will say the truth is hated often, because people don't want to hear the truth. They want to go with the ego and the denial and the grandiosity and all of this, the counter reaction to the feelings of total unempowerment, the feelings of not being liked, not feeling likable, not feeling lovable, feeling ugly, feeling like you fall under the radar, feel like a nobody, feel like totally unempowered and unimportant, feeling insignificant. So there's a counter reaction, and that's the ego, and that can take on extreme forms. So I'm thinking about this, I'm seeing all of this from the wider perspective, and all of this unempowerment that can, that's given to them by their parents, by how the parents feel, just by how the parents are feeling. Maybe they don't even talk about this. The more unconscious it actually is, the more subliminal it actually is, the less people even talk about these things, the fiercer this mechanism of unempowerment and jealousy actually becomes. This is the truth, what I'm saying here. Okay, this is the absolute truth. That's why it is so vitally important that we start to meditate on this, that we go into our own minds, and that we become aware of what is going on inside of us. Am I jealous? Am I feeling stepped on? Let's not act it out on others. It's not their fault. Okay? What's going on with me? Why am I feeling stepped on? Why do I feel insignificant? Why is feeling insignificant such a big drama? Why is this feeling so horrific, worse than death? Okay? Why is this such a psychological torture? I have to become aware about this. You have to become aware about this. We have to get therapy help centers where we can bring this awareness to people, where we can guide people through this ego dissolution funnel process, where they can go into that inwardness meditation process and for the first time in their lives see themselves for what they are and see others for what they are. Take care.